Hello and welcome back to Big Mouth and welcome to Monday's edition of the dceu Daily. Remember, you can tag me on Twitter with any suggestions for videos, tag me with articles, anything you want me to talk about. Remember, Twitter @MoviesTVMad. And Scott Edwards has done that. Now, this is a bit of an interesting one if you're an Arrowverse fan. Who the Arrowverse's most powerful villain is. Now, this would be interesting. Monica Garrett's Anti-Monitor earned his place as the Arrowverse's most powerful villain ever during the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths. You see, there's a big distinction here with the most powerful and the best villain. You see, I think someone like Deathstroke was probably the Arrowverse's best villain, or Reverse Flash in Season 1. But they're not the most powerful villains, but they're the most effective ones. So it's always important to have that distinction. The strongest villain in the Arrowverse is without doubt the Anti-Monitor played by Monica Garrett. The Anti-Monitor was the evil replica of the benevolent cosmic being known as the Monitor. The character served as the main antagonist of the 2019-2020 Arrowverse crossover event, Crisis on Infinite Earths. In Crisis on Infinite Earths, the heroes on Arrowverse were brought together by the Monitor to save the multiverse from the Anti-Monitor, whose goal was to destroy every world by unleashing waves of antimatter. As the Anti-Monitor gradually wiped out each Earth, the hero's situation became more desperate. The Monitor assembled 7 Paragons, who he believed could beat the villain and stop him from achieving his goals, but even they weren't enough to thwart his efforts later. Oliver Queen, Stephen Amell, became the mystical DC comic superhero known as the Spectre and engaged him in an epic showdown. The fight between the two concluded with the Anti-Monitor's defeat and the rebirth of the multiverse, which of course is the whole of Walter Hamada's and Jim Lee's multiverse strategy. So as they reset this brand new multiverse, surely this has got to be in line on the DC Extended Universe when they do Flashpoint. Now that's interesting. How are they going to do this? Because now it's one whole multiverse together with all these different Earths and different versions of our heroes. The Anti-Monitor was easily the greatest threat the Arrowverse has ever faced. While controlling Harbinger Audrey Mary Anderson, Anti-Monitor floored Brandon Routh's Superman with ease. Well, that's not a surprise because Berlanti and Arrowverse always like to knock Superman to the ground very easily. He doesn't like Superman, Berlanti, for some reason. Very, very odd. Floored Brandon Routh's Superman with ease and knocked everyone to the ground with a wave of his hand. The extent of his power and the gap between him and every other Arrowverse villain is clearly demonstrated by the results of his battle with the Paragons in the final episode of the crossover. Well, maybe if the Monitor chose better bloody Paragons, then it wouldn't have been an issue, right? The Paragons were ridiculous. Batwoman? How is Batwoman a bloody Paragon, right? She was a Paragon, wasn't she? Yeah, I'm sure she was. Anyway, they attacked him all at once but couldn't penetrate his force field. After growing to giant size, the Anti-Monitor proved to be even more formidable. Those Superman, Tyler Hoechlin, Martian Manhunter, David Harewood, Supergirl, Melissa Benoist, and The Flash, Grant Gustin, were all among the heroes fighting against the Anti-Monitor. None was strong enough to do any damage, which is a true testament of his power. They had to shrink him in order to stop him. Even with all these characters working together, they still couldn't beat him physically. There isn't a single being in the Arrowverse who can stand up to so many powerful heroes at once. All of the Arrowverse's most challenging villains would have fallen if they had fought Superman, Supergirl, The Flash, Martian Manhunter, and all of the others. Now, again, this is interesting because you don't just beat a villain, or a villain doesn't just beat heroes by sheer force of will or power. It's actually using your brains. Now, we've seen this in superhero battles before, and I prefer that when there's a mixture of brute strength and intellect to defeat someone. Standing up against all of them is a feat that other villains like Reverse Flash, Tom Cavanagh, and the Thinker, Neil Sandilands, Vandal Savage, Casper Crumb, Malice, and Rain, Annabelle wouldn't have been able to accomplish. There are characters that are capable of beating multiple superpowered opponents, but there was a limit to what each of them could handle. That didn't seem to be the case with the Anti-Monitor, who was impressively able to contend with the Arrowverse's fastest speedster and its three strongest heroes. Well, this is an interesting article, actually, because I don't know the point of it. Basically, they did an article about, the strongest villain in the Arrowverse. As I say, that's all well and good, but there wasn't much to him, Why did he want to do this? Because he hated the Monitor? Because they had this issue with each other? Ultimately, it's pretty weak if you ask me. Now, we go back to Deathstroke. That's it, Deathstroke. Did I say Deathshot on the top of the show? If I did, I apologise. But we look at Arrow versus Deathstroke, right? A really good, great interpretation of the character in the first two seasons. This is when Arrow was at its hardcore, before Berlanti and company decided to water it all down, right? A brilliant villain. Now, if you ask me, if I could be stuck in a room rewatching an Arrowverse villain, would it be the Anti-Monitor, or would it be Reverse Flash, or would it be Deathstroke? It would be Deathstroke, it would be Reverse Flash, because even Reverse Flash's story was really good. When you actually find out he was originally a big fan of the Flash and Barry Allen, and then he put this plan together to destroy Barry's life. I remember watching that episode and thinking, this is amazing. This is proper superhero TV, until Arrowverse wasn't proper superhero TV anymore. And I know a lot of people love it. I'm sure you love it, Scott Edwards, but I have to be honest that, I do have a higher, more average IQ than most people. It's been tested. And I think if you do have a high IQ, it is very difficult to sit there after the first two seasons of The Flash and the first two seasons of Arrowverse. I'm not saying anyone who watches and enjoys it after that is stupid. That's not my point. I think it's just very, very difficult. They weaponize it too much with their political commentary as well. So it's difficult for someone, especially if you're a guy and they're putting down guys every 5 minutes, it's difficult to watch because there actually is no need for any of it. So, yes, the Anti-Monitor, thus far, is the strongest villain, or is he? Is he stronger than Reverse Flash? It's interesting. Reverse Flash can be penetrated easy, but his intelligence and his speed, I believe, make him a more formidable enemy. The same with Deathstroke. He may just be human, but he is strong. He is clever. His plan to destroy Oliver was absolutely fantastic. And, in the end, Oliver needed a lot of friends to help him destroy Deathstroke. And he has to keep him on the island as well, right? Imagine that. So he knows. Oliver knows. He killed Oliver's mother, right? Let's be clear about this. So you can talk about powerful villains until you're blue in the face. But ultimately, who is the greatest villain should be the article. And I think it comes down to Season 1 Reverse Flash or Season 1 and 2 of Arrow's Deathstroke. I mean, take your choice. I mean, I'd probably go for Deathstroke. I thought he was amazing. To kill the hero's mother in that way still shocks me to my core, even today. So pretty much, Scott, I would say that it's a pointless article, if you ask me. Lots of people are still inquiring if Zack Snyder is still doing additional photography for his Justice League movie, and the answer is absolutely yes. I have no idea what he's shooting. Zack's been very, very quiet. That's understandable. And not many Vero posts or anything like that. He's busy shooting. He can't be answering fan questions. And I personally wouldn't want him to do that anyway. But definitely he's still there. It's happening. The reported week of additional photography was absolute bullshit. We all know that. There's a lot to do here. Zack is trying to reframe the movie how he originally saw it. That's what's going on now. This is what the additional photography is all about. Giving us that original scary idea. So yes, absolutely confirmed. Zack Snyder is still shooting additional photography for Zack Snyder's Justice League. And it could go on for a few weeks yet. Listen, I don't have any end date. And I'm sure the media, people like the Hollywood Reporter, Boris Kitt, people like that will confirm to us when it's over. I would say there may even be another month yet of additional photography. I think this is one of the reasons we haven't had a release date as well, because nobody knows when Zack's going to be ready and finished yet, but they will need a release date. Very important for HBO Max. It's part of the game. This is what's going to really relaunch in this streaming platform. Streaming has become very important since the pandemic. We know that. Movies are going to be made only for streaming very soon. I mean, think about how many cinematic movies have actually been announced since the lockdown, and how many movies have been announced for straight to streaming. Think about that, because streaming's the future. So Zack Snyder's Justice League is so very important for HBO Max. I mean, it is interesting looking at HBO Max. I mean, they had to kind of commission this movie with Zack Snyder, but they didn't seem to have a big plan, a launch of anything. I mean, even without, COVID-19, J.J. Abrams' Justice League Dark wouldn't have been ready to launch on the launch of HBO Max or the Green Lantern series. And you have to ask the question, why were they so behind the game? Disney Plus launched and they had The Mandalorian straight off or very quickly. So that tells you something. That tells you the differences between Warner Brothers and Disney. Now, of course, I'm always putting Disney down, and, they are what they are. But at the end of the day, they are a lot more organised. And without Zack Snyder's Justice League and potentially the Air Cut, and, the Green Lantern series, we won't see that till late next year. Or J.J. Abrams' Justice League Dark. These should have been things that should have been developed quicker, not quicker, still taking the amount of time so the quality's there, but should have been ready for launch or near launch. You're talking at least 2 DC shows that could have been ready. And for me personally, it's absolutely mystifying. Now, of course, if it wasn't for COVID, the Friends reunion would have been there at launch, and that would have been the event that got everyone running to the platform. Problem is, of course, it's just one reunion, and once it's over, you're not going to get, continued subscriptions. And so it is interesting to me that they had to kind of green light Zack Snyder's Justice League to get any eyes on their platform. And don't get me wrong, HBO Max is a brilliant service, even though I don't have access to it here in Cyprus. You can actually go on it, even though you can't watch it, to see what they've got. And it's probably the best. I think it's the best streaming platform. It's got a great variety of content. It's brilliant because it's got Warner Brothers' catalogue of content, and it's great. First of all, I don't think they should have called it HBO Max. People should know it's Warner Brothers, and they don't. It's a good name, don't get me wrong, but nobody knows this has got anything to do with Warner Brothers. Disney Plus, people know it's to do with Disney. So if they like Disney, they'll subscribe, and if they don't like Disney, they won't. They know what it is, and I think that's a bit problematic to me. But I do find that really interesting that HBO Max needed Zack Snyder's Justice League to get started. And don't misunderstand me. I have absolute faith in Zack Snyder's Justice League. I believe it's going to be the most watched, streamed event of all time. I think this thing is going to make HBO Max the most successful, streaming platform. And it's up to them if they take advantage of that and greenlight, Zack Snyder's Justice League 2, 3, 4, the Air Cut, And obviously we've got Green Lantern and Justice League Dark to look forward to. So I think it is really a slow roll for HBO Max. It's not like Disney Plus, who had everything, whatever you're going to get on Disney Plus, it's there now. And I know there's Marvel series to come, but you pretty much know what's on offer. Yeah, I think there is patience needed with HBO Max, but I think within a year's time, it will be the biggest platform with the stuff they're developing now. So can't wait to see Zack Snyder's Justice League Season 1. Still not too sure how we're going to get it in Europe. I'm hearing whispers that Sky Atlantic will have it in the UK. I'll tell you why, because Sky Atlantic have got an exclusive deal in the UK with HBO for HBO content. So I don't think you'll be getting HBO Max anytime soon in the UK. Not sure here in Europe and in Cyprus where I am. So I think look out for Sky Atlantic to make an announcement about the release date of Zack Snyder's Justice League once Zack makes his announcement for the release on HBO Max. Also, another reason for a probable lack of announcement for a release date right now is because HBO Max isn't global. They've still got to do these distribution deals internationally and globally. So this is why it's all taking time. Someone said March the other day. Grace Randolph hinted March the other day, which means it's probably February, right? Because who can believe anything that whack job's got to say? Anyway, any questions for me down in the comments? Any suggestions? Tag me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you again soon.